Yeah, welcome everybody to London Vegans January meeting. We have a guest speaker, as always, for our meetings. And tonight I'm very pleased to present to you Jane Thurnell-Read. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly.
Yep.
Jane, she's going to explain more about what she does, but she'll be talking tonight about the science of healthy aging. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Jane. But can I just say, if you have any questions along the way, yeah, please do just lift up your hand, raise your hand, and Jane is happy to take the questions as we go along. Over to you, Jane. Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks for the invite. It's lovely to be here among vegans, because I don't always get a chance to be among lots of other vegans. So that's great. I mean, I'm talking about the science of healthy aging, and I'm 77, so I've got real skin in this game about how to age healthily. I describe myself as a vegan and healthy aging activist, author, speaker, something else, blogger, all those things. I'm also a trustee for Veganuary, and I've been vegan since 2015, and I was vegetarian for around 40 years before that. So, science of healthy aging. I'm going to look at different aspects of that, but I want to start by looking at the thing people often say, and the Jeremy Clarksons of this world say, things like, oh, eating well, exercising, all that stuff. It's horrible, it makes life miserable, and I'd rather have a short life but a happy one. There's a whole load of false reasoning here, which I would just want to unpack for you. For starters, many people don't live healthy, happy, well, and then one day drop dead. What's much more common is that older people are spending 10, 15, 20 years with chronic ill health. And that often means a lot of pain, a lot of frailty, a loss of independence, all these things. So you're very unlikely to have a short life, but a happy one, and then drop dead. If you don't look after yourself, you're very, very, very likely that over time you'll start to get chronic ill health. You know, the statistics are actually terrifying. There's one that I always remember. It says that only 1 in 13 people in the UK that's over 65 is not taking any regular medication. 1 in 13. It's a really small number. And one of my aims in life, one of the things I'm really curious about is, can I get to however long I'm going to live for, to 80, 90, and not take any medication, any regular medication? I believe I can, but I think you have to work at it. It's not something that just happens. Now, I think we also undersell the benefits of eating well, exercising, getting sleep, and stuff like that, because we often talk about the physical benefits. You know, you're less likely to get type 2 diabetes, you're less likely da 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 da. But there's huge mental benefits if you eat well, look after yourself, sleep well. And for example, if you eat well, then your blood sugar is likely to be much more even, and you're much less likely to have mood swings and irrational thoughts and so on. If you exercise, it's been shown categorically that exercise improves your mood. And there's some interesting research which has looked at exercise and set it against antidepressants for people who were depressed. And they found that exercise worked better than antidepressants for people who are depressed. I know there's the whole issue of, if someone's depressed, they don't necessarily want to exercise, but exercise has been shown categorically to improve our mood. There's all sorts of reasons for this. One is that when we work our skeletal muscles, so the big muscles, arms, legs, and so on, which you do when you're running, when you're doing Zumba, when you're weightlifting, all these things, then it actually increases your level of feel-good hormones. So that actually just the movement of them actually increases your feel-good hormones. If anybody wants references for anything, I mean, I'm not going to give you them during this talk, but if anybody wants to follow up anything I've said, I do actually have references for it. It's part of the way I approach looking at healthy aging, looking at all this stuff is, what does the research say? What does the scientific research say? So the things I'm sharing with you are things that are well researched and that there's real evidence for. Okay, so this idea of short but happy life is not likely to happen. And there are so many benefits of eating well, exercising, sleeping well, and so on. So I want to start, I'm going to look at different aspects of what is often referred to as lifestyle medicine. So different aspects of a healthy lifestyle. And my aim is to give you lots of simple, practical tips that have been shown by research to work, to be effective. And I'm going to start, first of all, with sleep. I used to always start with healthy eating, and then it struck me that really I ought to start with sleep, because if you're not getting enough sleep, then there's lots of evidence, and most of us know this from personal experience. If we're not getting enough sleep, we're irritable, we may make bad decisions, and so on and so on. So I think getting good night's sleep is a real foundation here. And for a lot of people, it's really difficult to get a good night's sleep. So I want to give you some practical ideas about what you could do. The first thing I want to suggest is something called cognitive shuffle. Cognitive shuffle it's a way of getting yourself into almost a semi-hypnotic state, the state just between being awake and being asleep. So you're actually producing this in yourself. It's called cognitive shuffle. And what you do is you start with a word, and the word they usually suggest is bedroom, but you could use any word you like. And what you do is you lie there in bed with the lights off, in a comfortable position as though you're going to sleep if you can't get to sleep. So first of all, you think of the first letter of bedroom is B. So you think of an object beginning with B. So ball, baby, bathroom, beach, whatever the word is. And you think about that word, maybe you visualize it, or you just think about it. The important thing is you're choosing words that don't have a lot of emotional content for you. So, for example, if you're trying to get pregnant and struggling, you wouldn't start to use the word baby as the first B. Then you go on to E. So you'd be thinking about things beginning with E. So you'd think of some object that begins with E. Then you do D, and then you do R, and da, 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 da. So you go through the whole of bedroom for each letter, thinking of a word that starts with that letter, preferably an object, something sort of concrete, something physical. And if you get to the end, you go round again. And you just keep on going around, doing it very slowly, methodically. And it actually helps you to get into a sort of semi-hypnotic sleep and can help you get to sleep. So that's the first thing I would suggest about sleep. The Royal College of Psychiatrists suggests that if you can't sleep, then one of the things to do is write down what your worries are. So you write it down. They don't say this, but I would strongly advise you to actually then to write it down physically, not on a phone, but on paper and pen, and then take it into another room and leave it in another room. Because what you're saying is, okay, I'm worried about all these things, or I've got all these jobs to do tomorrow, and how am I going to get all of them done, or whatever it is, and you're putting it into another room rather than leaving it. You don't just put it by the side of your bed, all right? So they found that that's very effective in helping not everybody, but some people sleep. I'm giving you several different options so you can try and find which one works for you. Another possibility is using essential oils. Again, the Royal College of Psychiatry says that these work for some people. You can buy blends that are sold specifically to help you sleep. But some of the essential oils you might be thinking about are things like lavender, sandalwood, ylang ylang, and peppermint oil. Peppermint oil is also actually very good if you get lots of cravings and struggle with your weight. So that might be one to try. For me, peppermint oil doesn't seem like it would help me sleep, but the research says that, it feels to me like it's going to pep me up. But the research shows that it does help people sleep. So you can try those. So you can put them on a tissue, put the tissue under your pillow. You can spray put it in a spray with other stuff and spray it around the room. There's various different ways you can do that. So that's another possibility. A lot of people use alcohol to help them get to sleep. The evidence is really, really, really strong. I'm sorry to tell you that though alcohol may help you get to sleep, it really disturbs the quality of your sleep. So in fact, the research shows that you're more likely to be tired the next day if you have alcohol before you sleep. Now, that can be really hard to believe because you can think, well, I'm sleeping for longer. It's why would you say I'm going to be less tired? But it's that the quality of the sleep isn't there. You get and I can't remember which one it is. It might be the REM sleep. One phase of the sleep, and I can't remember right now which it is, gets disturbed by alcohol. So if you're using alcohol to get you to sleep, please find another method to help you get to sleep, because as I say, it will help you get to sleep, but it's not going to give you the quality sleep that you need. So it's really important. And another thing to think about in terms of sleep is we know it's really important, but I think people often at a visceral level don't understand how important it is. And so what I would say is that if you were being chased by a wild animal, and the wild animal was going to kill you if it caught you, eventually you'd have to go to sleep, even though it might mean you would get killed by a wild animal. That's how important sleep is to us. And sadly, for a lot of people, sort of sleep is the thing they do when they run out of things to do in the evening. So when they've answered the emails, checked with all the friends, there's nothing they particularly want to watch on telly, they've had something to eat, and so on and so on. And then it's like, oh, okay, now I'll go to bed. Whereas it's really important to prioritize sleeping and to remember that, if you were in the wild and a wild animal was chasing you, after a couple of days, you would be forced to sleep whether you liked it or not, even at the risk of you being killed by a wild animal.
Then
So
there was a
that's,
question. Sorry, there was a question
yeah.
on the saying, in order to make the notes about the worries and things, you have to put the lights on.
Well, you do it before you lay down, of course.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So if you're somebody who normally, or you realize that, I mean, you often know. I know before I get into bed that I'm a bit agitated tonight because I'm worrying about something tomorrow, or I've had a row with somebody and it hasn't been resolved or whatever. So you do it at that point.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Or if actually if you switched off your lights, lay down, and then you started worrying, you could still there's quite a lot to be said for if you're having difficulty sleeping, is restarting the process. So put the lights on, get up, go and clean your teeth again, come back in. Yeah. And as part of that, then you'd be actually writing something down as well. Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. So let's move on to healthy eating. Because we're vegans, we often pride ourselves on eating well. There's been a bit of a backlash on the grounds that we're all supposedly eating vegan chicken nuggets and stuff like that, which isn't necessarily true. But the research evidence is really clear that if you're eating vegan chicken nuggets, you're still, from a health point of view, doing better than eating chicken nuggets. So I'm not talking here about in terms of benefit to the planet or animal cruelty or anything, just in terms of if you're eating vegan chicken nuggets, you're doing better than if you're eating chicken nuggets. Obviously, it's not ideal. And the ideal is to go back and to eat more whole foods. My number one piece of advice when people ask me about healthy eating is always, I talk about the variety effect. Sorry, I've had a cold and I've still got quite a dry tickle. So healthy eating, I normally tell people about the variety effect. And the reason I like this is because it works both to reduce the amount of unhealthy food you're eating and to increase the amount of healthy food you're eating. So the variety effect is the idea, and they have a specific scientific name for it, but the easy way to remember it is the variety effect. So the idea is that if you eat a lot of the same food, there comes a limit when you will naturally stop eating it. But if you have a variety of food, you'll end up eating more. So how that works is, say you had a box of donuts. If all your donuts were exactly the same, they're all jam donuts or they're all, I don't know, chocolate sauce and sprinkles on top of them or whatever. If they're all the same, you're likely, not necessarily will, but you're very likely to eat fewer than if you had a variety. So if you had a box of 6 and they're all the same, you're likely to eat fewer than if the box contained, a jam donut, a chocolate one, one with white icing with sprinkles, and so on and so on. So you can apply this idea both to healthy and unhealthy food. So if you want to eat less of unhealthy food, then you just get one variety of it. So what you don't buy, for example, is a variety pack of crisps or chocolates or biscuits or whatever. You buy just one flavor, one type, yeah? And that way you're likely to eat less of them. If you want to eat more of something, like you want to eat more fruit or more vegetables, you're trying to get yourself eating more of these things, then again, this time, because it's healthy, you have a wider variety. And then you're more likely to eat it. If you imagine on your plate, if you had a pile of carrots, right, you might not eat them all. But if you say, for example, had the same quantity overall or the same calories overall, but you had carrots, peas, green beans, you're likely to eat more of them. So the simple rule of thumb is have more of the things that you want to eat and have less of the things that you don't want to eat, have less variety. Yeah, and this can be really helpful if you're in a household with, maybe you've got teenagers or something like this, then maybe you can negotiate with them that instead of having a whole range of snacks, they have one that they particularly like, one variety at a time. So that's a really simple thing. You can apply it both in terms of eating more healthy food and eating less unhealthy food. And that's why I like it, because it applies both ways. It's a really simple idea. And it's been shown in research when people didn't know that was what was being tested. There's a lady from Swansea University did it with people were decorating a Christmas tree, and they either had what those tin boxes you get tins and you get a Quality Street and stuff like that. I don't know what brand it was, but they were eating those as they were decorating the tree, or they had a box that was just one type of chocolate. And without knowing that was what was being tested, they ate fewer of the box that had all the same chocolates in. And you can see how that works. If you're faced with a box of a variety, you think, oh, I haven't tried that one. I think I'll have one of those. Or maybe I'll have one of these. And you sort of eat more of them. So the idea is that with the variety effect, more variety of things that you want to eat more of, less variety of things that you don't want to eat so much of. Again, if people ask me about healthy eating, the next thing I always say is eat a small handful of nuts. People are always a bit surprised because they're expecting me to tell them to stop eating things, stop eating ultra processed food, stop eating this, that, and the other. And I don't think that's a good place to start for most people. So I say a small handful of nuts. It's your hand, not somebody else's hand. So what's a small handful of nuts in your hand is what is right for you. If you've got somebody with much bigger hands, they're a bigger person overall, then their small handful of nuts will contain more nuts than yours would, but they're a bigger person. So it's a small handful of nuts. It's been shown really beneficial for cardiovascular health, got a whole range of minerals in them. They've got some protein, obviously, and they've got fiber as well. If you're having problems sleeping, you might want to make your nuts pistachio, because pistachio nuts have high levels of melatonin. So, and melatonin is very helpful for sleep. Also, if you're jet lagged, pistachio nuts will help as well because of the melatonin in them. So if you've got problems sleeping, make the nuts pistachios. Otherwise, almonds, walnuts. If you've got eczema, I would recommend trying walnuts as your nut of choice. You can vary it. You can have mixed nuts, preferably not salted, preferably not roasted. John has a question. Can you switch yourself on, John?
Got it. Yep, thanks. Yes, when you say nuts, can I ask whether you include peanuts as nuts? Because some people say that peanuts are a legume and not a nut.
Yeah, peanuts are actually a legume. I mean, technically, biologically, but nutritionally, they work very the same as most what we call tree nuts. So yeah, I would definitely peanuts are fine if that's, but I wouldn't, again, it's quite good to vary them, what nuts you have. So, you get a bag of, I don't know, walnuts, eat your way through those and then change them and have a bag of peanuts and then have a bag of almonds and so on. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Good.
If you find you're snacking a lot, I recommend affirmations after meals. So affirmations used to be considered to be very bit alternative, I guess is the word. But scientists have started looking at them and have seen that actually they can be very effective. And one of the ways I personally recommend for affirmations, I've never seen anybody else recommend this, but it's on the basis of my own personal recommendation and giving it to other people and then finding it works. So at the end of the meal, if you don't want to snack between that meal and the next meal, then you repeat an affirmation several times. So the affirmation, for those of you who aren't familiar with them, affirmations are as though something is real now. So you're not saying, I don't want to eat till lunchtime. You say something, and what will work for you, you'll need to work this out yourself, but something like, I am now full and do not need to eat until X o'clock, until lunchtime, until dinner time, or whatever it is, yeah, so you're just choosing an affirmation, saying it out loud several times, John.
Yes. On this sort of subject of affirmations, if you say you happen to believe in God and you say a prayer before a meal and you say a prayer after a meal, you know, thanking God for the food, etc., would that have a beneficial effect, do you think, or is it just nice to do but not really going to do any good?
Well, I think you could ask God's help in you know, you could. I don't know quite. I'm not a religious person, so I'm probably not the best person to ask. But you could actually incorporate, you know, ask God's help in some way. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. So where am I? Where am I? Yeah. Handful of nuts. Affirmations after meals. So you know, I've eaten enough now. I don't need to eat till the morning. The Another simple thing you can do is in terms of containers. So if you healthy food, put in clear containers, put them at the front of the fridge, the front of the cupboard. Food that you don't want to snack on unnecessarily, that you find very tempting but isn't very healthy, dark containers at the back of the fridge, the back of the cupboard, or even in the garage or in the shed or somewhere, so that actually you've got to make some effort to go and get them. So this is really helpful. There's lots of research that you really ideally need to stop eating by 7 o'clock in the evening. Helps minimize the risk of type 2 diabetes, helps minimize cardiovascular problems. It's good for weight control. That can be really difficult. I know, particularly if you're working, you know, if you're somebody who works till 5:30 and that has a long commute home, that can make it difficult. So it may, you know, but you can work towards that, work towards getting that to happen. Right, so let's talk about exercise. So exercise is really important. A friend once said to me, I don't like exercise, so I don't do it. And I said to her, what would you say if I said I don't like cleaning my teeth, so I don't do it? And she was quite shocked. She said, but you must clean your teeth. She said, otherwise you're going to get, you know, you'll get bad breath, you'll need fillings, you'll need to, you know, you'll have teeth out, your gums, you'll have problems with your gums, all this sort of stuff. And I said, exercise is a bit like that. You know, even if you don't like it, you really need to do it. We all need to do exercise. Now, the recommendation in terms of aerobic exercise is 150 minutes of moderate exercise a week or 75 minutes of high intensity exercise. Now, I want to explain to you what moderate intensity exercise is, because most people are really surprised when I say this. So the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta in the US, which is a very well-respected organization. You'll know how well respected it is because it's in Donald Trump's sights to clip its wings, because it's giving accurate scientific information out to people. So what the CDC says is you can tell if you're doing moderate intensity exercise because you can talk, but you can't sing. Right? So if you think, you know, I meet a lot of people who say, oh yeah, I'm always going for walks and I garden. You know, I'm doing loads of exercise. And I say, well, can you sing while you garden? Can you sing while you walk? And the usual answer is yes. Then it doesn't count towards this 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise. And if you want to do 75 minutes of high intensity exercise per week instead, then for that you can't talk and you can't sing. Right? So for moderate intensity exercise, it needs to be 150 minutes minimum a week, and you can talk, but you can't sing. All right, and doing more at a slower pace isn't the same, because if you're working like that, then that has physiological effects on your body, on your lungs, on your heart rate, on your pulse and everything else, so that, you know, you can't say, oh, well, I'll do 300 minutes of lesser level exercise and that will be fine. It won't. You need to be thinking about doing 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise. So there isn't, I really like this measure of it because it's a measure that's individual for you. Yeah. So if you don't normally take exercise and you start walking quite quickly for you, you might actually get to that level of moderate intensity exercise, because you might get to the point when you can walk but you can't sing. Now, if I did moderate intensity exercise, I'm never going to achieve it by walking, because I'm fit, you know, I'm fit because of how fit I am and the amount of other exercise I do. I can't count any of my walking towards that 150 minutes. I hope that, does that make sense? I hope it does. Are we okay there, Brian?
Stu, what can you give some practical examples of what you do? I mean, is it you're just doing sort of power walking, or are you going into a gym and you're doing some running? Because it seems to me that, you know, we're talking about 20 minutes a day, 7 days a week, in order and to be to a point where you're getting slightly out of breath. But that seems quite a lot. So I don't know if you want to give some practical examples of.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to do 20 minutes every day. You could do it all at the weekend, for example. Yeah. You know, I mean, it obviously needs to fit in round your life.
Yeah.
And to begin with, you know, I think it's really important you don't get overwhelmed by this. You know, if all you can do for a few weeks is 20 minutes for the whole week, that's better than not doing none. Sorry, it's better than, yeah, it's better.
Something better than nothing.
Nothing, better than nothing. Yes, sorry. Yeah. It's better than nothing. But what you're aiming for is 150 minutes. Now, what I do is I'm fortunate that because I live near Exeter, I can use my bike as my main form of transport. So I bike everywhere. I mean, unless I was going out to something quite posh, I bike everywhere. And I bike in the rain, I bike all the way through the winter. The only time I don't bike is if I feel it's dangerous, like it's icy or something like that. So I actually bike around 40 miles a week, just I'm just using it as, you know, as my form of transport. And then I go to the gym 3 times a week and I work out hard. I mean, I'm lifting heavy weights. When the Vegan Society celebrated 77 years of the Vegan Society, they asked people to do things to celebrate it and raise funds for the Vegan Society at the same time. So I decided to do deadlift, which is lifting a barbell off the ground and standing up straight with it. So I decided to deadlift 77 kilos, which I managed. So I was very pleased with that. There was a bit of an intense training to get to it. But yeah, I managed it. So I lift very heavy weights as well. Yeah. Now, people talk about steps and how important steps are. And you've heard this 10,000 steps. And for a lot of people, 10,000 steps is just like not doable. I mean, either because they've never done anything like that, or it does take a long time to do 10,000 steps each day. You know, you have to, and if you've got kids or a very busy life, work long hours, work several jobs, all the rest of it, it can be very difficult to get to 10,000 steps. But there's evidence from the University of Sydney that if you do 3,800 steps a day, you reduce your chances of getting dementia by up to 25%. So, you know, don't feel you've got to. The way it's often sort of, I feel, talked about in the media is it's like you've got to do 10,000. And if you don't do 10,000, there's no point. Whereas in fact, there's a lot of point. If you do 3,800, you're reducing your chances of dementia. If you do more, it has an effect on your heart and so on and so on the length of your life. The more you do, the more benefit there is. So don't feel you've got to go full on for the 10,000 to achieve any benefit. Yeah. It's a bit like, you know, what I was just talking about with the medium intensity exercise. Don't think I can't do 150 minutes a week, so I'm not going to do anything. Do what you can and try to build it up. Yeah.
Around the house as well as physically going with an intentional walk.
Sorry, say that again.
Does the 10,000 steps include walking around the house and going shopping in the as well as all the other things? Yeah.
And that can mount up.
Not just going for a specific walk from one A to B.
No, it's any walking that you do, which, as I say, you know, you can be walking around the kitchen, you can be walking around the, you know, your garden, I don't know, walking to the bus stop, whatever. Yeah.
Because it's easier. I think when they're listening, it's if you enjoy doing it, it's going to get done. If there's a need, if there's a motivation, it will get done. And obviously, if someone says, "Well, I need to go shopping," and they need to go to the shops, then they'll go for the walk. Like people go dancing because they enjoy dancing. Whereas you said the lady might not want to do exercise, but if she's doing, she needs to go walking somewhere, or she needs to enjoys dancing. That's exercise, and it's something she would enjoy doing.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's really important to try and find something you like.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, if you can't find something you like, you still should do it because of the vast implications for your health.
Yes.
In terms of, so we've been talking about aerobic and activity and walking, and the other bit is lifting weights, is doing things that will resistance training, strength training, weight training, those words, those phrases, you can use them interchangeably. And I would really recommend HasFit, HASFIT, hasfit.com, HASFIT, hasfit.com. They have a lot of free online workouts. And if you've got 5 minutes, they have 5-minute workouts. They have 30-minute workouts. If you've got sciatic pain, they have sciatic pain workouts. They have chronic lower back pain workouts. They have workouts if you have no equipment whatsoever apart from your own body weight. So there's lots and lots of different ones. They do whole body ones. You can do ones just for your arms, one for your back. They have a very active Facebook community where people go, you know, a lot of people talk about how wonderful they found it, how they've, you know, they're much stronger, fitter, and they've lost weight. They have a nutrition program, I think, as well. But last time I looked at it, it's fairly well, it's not vegan, I would say. But apart from that, I think they're very good. You can do this stuff in your pajamas. You know, you don't have to get kitted out, you know, or your underwear. You just get it up on your laptop or your phone and follow along. And they have stuff for beginners, stuff for intermediate, stuff for advanced. It's all free. I really, really recommend it as something you can do. And as I say, you can go from 5-minute session, a 5-minute quick blast of something, right up to 40 minutes, I think is about the longest workout. So it's really, I've recommended this to a lot of people, and people have come back and said, "Oh, I really like it. It's really good. I found it really useful." Okay, let's talk about stress and happiness. So something that there's lots of stuff out there about what to do about stress, but there's some interesting research from I think it's the Max Planck Institute, but I could be wrong, on birdsong. And they actually got people to listen to recordings of birdsong, and they found that it reduced anxiety and reduced depression. Now, you can go on YouTube or Spotify or one of those, and you can find 7 hours of birdsong or 8 hours of birdsong. The problem with that is if you have a free account, you're going to get ads in the middle of it. So that's not really conducive to reducing your anxiety if it keeps on getting broken up with ads. The BBC has a whole load of recordings of the dawn chorus. So if you put into Google, if you Google BBC Dawn Chorus audio file or something like that, you'll get to it, and you'll be able to then pick one of the Dawn choruses from there. There's some really nice. It's almost as soon as I start to hear it, I'm like, oh, just so much restful. And the research was done on recordings, not on being out in nature, although we know that's really important. But often, it's not possible, or if you're in the middle of London, you may not be able to hear the bird song because of the traffic and so on. So birdsong works really well. Another thing you can do is write a gratitude letter. There's been quite a lot of work done on that, writing a gratitude letter, particularly to somebody you've never thanked. And we all have these people in our lives, people we've never thanked. The research shows that 3 months later, these people are still feeling happier, feeling less depressed, feeling more hopeful. And I mean, the research doesn't show what happened to the person who received the gratitude letter, but you can imagine they would also be feeling better. So you write a letter of gratitude to someone you haven't done before. There's some really interesting research coming out now about happiness as a skill. And I can't remember the name of the guy, but if anybody wants it, I have it on my computer somewhere. And he says, happiness is a skill, just like learning to play a violin, learning to play a piano. You can learn to be happy. Now, obviously, there's some situations when it's right for people not to be happy because of the trauma they're going through or whatever. But on a day-to-day basis, you can learn to be happy for just dealing with day-to-day things. And it's a focus on things you're grateful for, noticing small things, and so on and so on. There's lots of things you can do. So the idea of happiness as a skill, if you start to take that on board, it can really change, rather than waiting for things to be right so that you're happy. This is looking for stuff that makes you feel happy. It's a much more proactive going out there looking for it. The research is really interesting. I think it needs to be more widely known. Another thing about pretending to be happy, research.
Excuse me, Jane.
Yeah.
There's the action for happiness. Is that what you're thinking about? That's one of the things.
No, but that's a similar thing. Yeah, but it's not actually them. I can't think. It's an American guy who's a professor of something. Pardon?
Is it Richie Davidson? Is that one? No.
Might be.
That's why I'm just doing a search on Google. Okay.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Because the action is they do regular emails and groups on Zoom and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be a good thing as well. And there's also research which has been shown if we pretend to be happy by smiling, that it changes the neurotransmitters in the brain. So that even if we're not happy, if we pretend to be happy, it starts to change the biochemical stuff going on in the brain and can lead to us feeling happier. So I think it's I like it because it really gives us a sense of, it gives us more agency in terms of happiness. The other thing I would recommend is volunteering in some capacity or other. That's been shown, again, really definitively, that volunteering helps people be less stressed, more happy, not just when they're volunteering, but generally. The research is around that you only need to do 2 to 3 hours a week. Obviously, you might want to do more. There's nothing to stop you doing more, but to get the benefits in terms of your own mental health, you need to be volunteering about 2 to 3 hours a week. So that's a really good thing you can do. And I've got a lot more. And I write books, as I said, so I'm going to do a little advert for my books here. I've got 4 books out now, actually, and the 4th one was available yesterday for the first time, which is Health and Wellbeing on a Budget. And it's, again, it's practical stuff I give, and I give links to the research. There's 120, I don't know, maybe more than that, links to research within the book. And I like to give people practical information. So there's health and well-being on the budget, on a budget, until 8 a.m. on Saturday morning. You can download the Kindle version for free. After that, you'll have to pay for it. And so if you'd like to do that, if you do that, please review it. Part of the reason I'm putting it free for these 3 days is so that people will download it and review it. So it's really important. If you don't have a lot of money, and you're not a celebrity, then the way you get your books found on Amazon is by having lots and lots of reviews. So that's really important. The other one,
sorry, can you just tell me the name of the book and I'll just message everybody again?
Yeah, so it's called Health and Wellbeing on a Budget.
Okay, thank you.
And then there's this one, The Science of Healthy Aging, which this talk, what I've talked about today, some of that's in here and some of it is in the new book. So there's bits from both books. Yeah. So this is very much, again, very practical based. It goes through all the arguments about, oh, I'm just unlucky, it's my genes, and all the other things like that. There's a book on, for those approaching menopause or menopause weight loss, where I look at the evidence. It's much more complex than I think people think it is. And then I've got 190 weight loss hacks, again, research based, what works. Yeah, I could go on talking, but I'm aware of the time, which is 7:47. So I don't know whether we've got questions or whether I should go on talking.
Please do raise your hand. I know somebody. I can't
John.
see. Is it John again? Hi, John. Yeah. Okay.
You're muted, John.
Yep, that's it. Right, thanks. Yep. Going back to sleep.
Yeah.
Now, I know it's good to get a certain amount of liquid per day, but I got this policy. I very rarely drink liquid after about 5 p.m.
Yeah.
The reason is, if I do, I increase my chance, my risk of having to get up in the night to go to the loo. So weigh up the balance of, it's good to have more liquid, but if you're going to get up in the night to go to the loo, it kind of disrupts your sleep. Would you think it's a good idea to just drink the amount which is not going to make you get up in the night to go to the loo?
Well, yeah, I think it is, because obviously sleep is important. And I know for men in particular, it can be a real issue, particularly as they get older.
Yeah.
So but you need to drink more than during the rest of the day. The rule of thumb about whether or not you're drinking enough water is that your pee should be the colour of pale straw. Now, if you're taking a B complex, it might be a sort of a bit of a sort of neon yellowy green. And if you're on some drugs, you know, taking some drugs regularly, that can affect the color of your urine. But it should be the color of a pale straw. If it's darker than that and you're not taking B vitamins, you're not aware of anything, you're not taking any medication, then you need to up the amount you're drinking till you're regularly got pale straw pee. If you up your water that you're drinking and it still isn't changing, then you definitely need to get checked out with your doctor.
Right, thank you very much.
Ishma, hi. Do you want to unmute, please?
Jane, for a lovely talk. Do South Asian, I've heard that South Asian genes are more likely to hold onto fat than European or Caucasian genes. Is that true?
Well, you have a predisposition to type 2 diabetes. So therefore, you have to be much more careful about lifestyle in terms of type 2 diabetes.
And also like
and I think, you know, there's also a cultural thing. I mean, many years ago, I went as a volunteer to Botswana. I know this isn't East India and so on, but you know, when I was first arrived there, somebody said to me, "Oh, you're lovely and fat." And they actually meant it as a compliment. You know, I was like, "Oh, what you say?" I was quite horrified. But in that culture, fat women meant wealth, you know, because it meant I had enough food, that I was eating well. So to say to somebody, "Oh, you're really fat," it was a compliment. And, you know, I think in India, maybe there's some of that as well. I don't know. I mean, I'm not aware enough of the culture there to be to say that categorically, and you may know that better than me. But certainly genetically, you're more susceptible to type 2 diabetes. So it's actually even more important that you need to keep your weight in check and avoid too much sugary stuff and all that sort of thing.
So is fasting a better route as well, like cutting down on sugars? And also can you explain a little bit about non-alcoholic fatty liver diseases as well? I don't know if
I'm not actually medically qualified, so I always try and avoid, you know, getting into a discussion about things like fatty liver disease. Fasting, I mean, some people get on really well with fasting, and there's various variations. You know, at the simplest, it's not eating for 12 hours, which for most people is overnight. So finish your dinner by 7 o'clock and not starting the next day breakfast till after 7 o'clock in the morning, for example, would be ideal. I know not everybody can do that because of all sorts of things. And then there's people who fast for a day or for 2 days or for 3 days. Certainly you need to know what you're doing if you're fasting for more than about 24 hours. So I wouldn't advise you just to read a book and do it. Is that any help? I can't see her.
yes, that's good.
Yeah?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll come back to you, John, because I know John's asked a few questions. I've got Paul has asked on here, what do you or other think of blood pressure medication to reduce blood pressure? Any thoughts on that?
Well, sometimes it's essential, but there's you know, the first line of attack would be reduce your salt. And if you really find that difficult, you can get these low salt, which are potassium based, that will, you know, that you can exchange for them instead. I'm actually, you know, I see medication that you take every day as a last resort. Sometimes we need it, without a doubt.
Yeah.
You know, some people wouldn't be alive without it. I get that totally. But first of all, look at what you can do. I remember a friend of mine in his 30s, he went to the doctors and the doctor said, oh, you know, you've got high blood pressure and da 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 da. Here's some medication, gave him some medication, and then 10, 15 years later, you know, he was about as round as he was high, my friend, and he fell out with his partner, and he did that, you know, revenge body thing where he worked out, lost a load of weight, and found he came off all his medication. And he said to me, "Why didn't the doctor tell me?" And I said, "Well, when you were 30 something, if the doctor had said, I've got a pill that you can take, or you can get fit, lose weight, stuff, which would you take?" And he said, "Oh, I would have still taken the pills." So, you know, I think we have to use it as a last resort. Certainly look at reducing your salt intake, losing weight, all that sort of thing. It has lots of other benefits as well.
Zenith, actually, I'll come back to you. I've got a couple more. I just wanted to ask a question. You covered about sleep earlier. I don't know whether you mentioned is there an optimal level of how many hours we should be sleeping as we get older? I mean, we should be sleeping less, should be sleeping more.
It's it's very clear that people as they get older tend to have more problems sleeping.
Okay.
It's not clear why. One possibility is that then a lot of older people will fall asleep in the day and therefore then need less sleep at night.
Right.
You know, exercise is really good for helping you sleep. Taking regular exercise is good for sleep. And a lot of older people don't do that. A lot of older people eat later and things like that.
Yeah. I'm just aware that I'm waking up a lot earlier than I ever used to when I was younger. So I didn't know whether that's a natural part of getting old. I don't know. maybe not.
I mean, some of it can be down to if you're less active, then you need less sleep. So a lot of it is down to what sort of lifestyle you are. You know, because I'm at the gym, working out hard, riding my bike, doing all this other stuff, I actually need, I still need the full amount of sleep.
Good, thank you. We'll go John, then Zenith. Unmute, please, John.
Got it, right. Going back to sleeping again, I used to, when I was lying in bed, if I wasn't sort of getting to sleep, I look at my clock and oh gosh, that's the time. And I'll start fretting, gosh, I'm not going to get enough sleep. I'm in bed, but I'm not getting enough sleep. Yeah. And then I decided, I thought to myself, as long as I'm in bed, lying down, if my body really needs to sleep, it'll get me to sleep. So I got the policy of, I never ever look at my clock. I think I'm just going to go to bed. And when the alarm clock goes off, then fine, I'll be up and awake. Am I fooling myself? Or if you're lying in bed, but not actually asleep, your body's still doing a lot of sort of good for your body. So don't worry too much if you're not actually asleep.
Well, it is still doing a lot of good for your body, but there's some processes that we have a limited amount of understanding of that happen when we are actually asleep. So you do need to be asleep for that. But certainly, lying down, resting, relaxing. And I think, if you can get rid of the worry about sleeping, then you're more likely to sleep. The more you worry about sleeping, the less likely you are to sleep. So something like, the approach you're taking, I think is a very good idea. Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Great. Thank you very much. Yep.
Unmute, please.
Thanks for your talk, Jane. So it's interesting what we said about some of these walks helping against dementia. Do you know, have you got any other advice against dementia?
Exercise. There's some information from the University of Sydney, and they are saying that resistance training, weight training, strength training, whatever you like to call it, should be part of everybody's prevention of dementia. Other than that, wearing a hearing aid if you need a hearing aid, that's been linked very clearly to, they did research on people who were tested as needing a hearing aid and then didn't get one for 3 years. And during that time, they were more likely to get dementia. They were more likely to be depressed, more likely to be anxious. We're not totally clear why that is. It's possible just to do with the stimulation of the brain, but we don't know entirely. And gum health has been linked very much to, oh yes, the lady who I was saying earlier, type 2 diabetes. Gum health has been linked very clearly to type 2 diabetes. So if you've got poor gum health, your type 2 diabetes is likely to be worse. So looking after your gum health is really important, but it's also recently been linked to, there's some evidence now emerging, it's not totally clear, that it's looking after you. If you have poor gum health, you're more likely to suffer with dementia. So that's another preventive as well.
Okay.
And doing jigsaws and stimulating a brain, learning a language, all that sort of stuff is already beneficial too.
Are you okay to stay on another couple of minutes, Jane? I've got another.
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah.
Annie Taylor, could you
Oh, yes.
unmute please? I think you actually maybe you're before.
Oh, I am unmuted.
Yes, that's it.
Oh God, sorry, I've been unmuted the entire time, and my dog is licking herself very loudly. Sorry. Anyway, yes. Well, it wasn't a specific question actually. It was just a comment, I think. Because one person was saying, you know, how much sleep do you need? And you said, you know, if you're more active, the more active you are, the more sleep you need. And I also find, you know, as a neurodivergent person, the more, frankly, you know, the world is exhausting. I just want to go back 400 years and just sit in a field and plant potatoes and do nothing else. So I find I need like 10 hours sleep, just to stay sane, basically, you know. And even so, like I've been waking up at 3 a.m. a lot lately, and then I do stupid stuff on my phone, and then I don't sleep, and then I'm exhausted and, you know, not taking good care enough of my dog. And I'm just thinking, okay, you know, I need to, anyway, trying to disconnect from screens. Point is I feel like also if your brain is more active, then you also need more sleep, I think, you know, because I'm constantly, you know, just trying to tune out so many different details.
I'd agree with that, absolutely. You know, I don't think there's a set figure, you know, that we all need. The general advice seems to be 7 to 9 hours, but I think some people are outliers of that, and you sound like one of those, that you need more.
And a nap.
Margaret Thatcher was supposed to get by
10 hours and a nap. So,
yes, Margaret Thatcher was supposed to get by on 4 hours sleep or something a night. So I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you for the comment, Annie. We've actually gone over the time, and I want to try and wind things up. And I know I've got 2 or 3 more questions here, and there's one online. Are you okay to take?
Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. Gail says, Jane, you've got lovely skin. Is this all attributable to your diet, or can you share your particular skincare regime? And it says this helps reduce stress. If one looks good, one's mental state is more relaxed and healthy.
Yeah. I think
I'll give you 1 or 2 other things. Gargling after a meal and tongue cleaning is recommended to reduce type 2 diabetes.
Right.
Gail said, can I, then she's also recommend Dr. Michael Greger's book, How Not to Age.
Yes.
Nicole says, I'm autistic and vegan. I get less sleep. I get distracted on my phone too. Okay, so there's a couple of things there. But the skin thing, I don't know if you want to give some feedback on that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been vegetarian I was vegetarian for 40 odd years, and I've been pretty whole food most of that time. I had a really misspent 20s when I was drinking a quarter of a bottle of scotch a day and smoking 40 cigarettes and existing on chocolate, oranges and toast. But it was always vegetarian, but that's what it was like. And but I've generally had a whole food diet for lots and lots of years. And I've used natural skincare stuff, you know, without all the sort of gumph that so many of them have, for, you know, when it was deeply, deeply unfashionable and deeply, deeply difficult to find. So I think that has an effect too. Yeah, I mean, my mum doesn't have a particular, you know, she wasn't particularly known for her skin or anything. I don't think it's a family thing. My dad actually was allergic to sunshine on most of his body, so he and I definitely don't share skin. So yeah, I don't know. I mean,
particular brands you want to mention or not?
I actually use Aveda quite a bit, which is completely vegan. I go to an Aveda hairstylist. And I'm just trying to think what else I use. Yeah, I mean, basically I use a lot of Aveda at the moment.
Okay, yeah, good, thanks. Well, that last question, John.
And thank you for the compliment.
Okay. But quick question, John.
Yes, you were saying that I think you were vegetarian for about 40 years. And I can't remember how many years vegan, but relatively recently. Did you notice a biggest difference going from vegetarian to vegan as you did going from sort of omnivore to vegetarian?
I mean, omnivore to vegetarian was actually quite different. I mean, was difficult because, you know, I didn't know any vegetarians and stuff like that. It was really quite difficult. There wasn't the choice in restaurants. I remember going into a restaurant and saying I want a cheese and tomato pizza, and it came covered with olives. Not olives,
actually,
anchovies.
I was meaning from your health point of view, not from
a
the
health point of view.
but
well, no,
health,
because
health
I
and
was
well-being.
actually, I mean, it was, I think any benefit was disguised by the fact that I was deeply into alcohol and cigarettes and disreputable men. So
Yeah.
I don't think that this had a good effect. Actually, or was that going to go out? And I did notice a difference going from vegetarian to vegan, without a doubt, which I did in 2015. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of benefit, a lot more energy.
Glad to hear it. Pretty glad to hear it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say a really, really, really big thank you, Jane. I mean, there's so many facts that you've told us. And I mean, I'm a hypnotherapist, and I was help people with sleep issues. And there's a few things that you mentioned I didn't know about, pistachios and the other things, some of the other things you mentioned as well. So from a personal point of view, thank you. On behalf of London Vegans, thank you as well for spending time speaking to us. Round of applause on behalf of the group. And just say thank you all the participants for attending. This meeting is being recorded, so you can watch over again. It will be up on YouTube, and I will circulate details. So I just wind up and just say thank you again. I'm going to stop the recording.